Hi, y'all. Episode 8. I might stop at 10. I think that's where we're stopping. And then we'll go back to the regular podcast. And that'll just be caught up, and I can just talk about school and regular things and not have to sort of, fill in the blanks among other things. So, okay. We're here. And so now we're at the end of spring. 24, and I want to be done with Arabic so bad, but the core requires you to take 2 years of language. So I'm looking at this like, I can't do another Monday through Thursday year, because I need to be able to work Thursday through Sunday. And this first year classes were Monday through Thursday, and it just, it had to be that way. So it was, but this next year I'm like, I can't. So I'm looking at options. Summer school, 8 weeks to complete a whole second year of Arabic, and it was 5 mornings a week for 8 weeks. And I was like, okay, this will end when my summer gigs start picking up. So the timing was good. And I was like, that's what I'm doing. I can't do another 28 weeks of Arabic. It was just so much, man. It consumes you. You feel like you're not doing anything else. You feel like you're not studying anything else. You're just only thinking and learning Arabic. You're finding the time to get the other stuff done, but it just doesn't feel like it. And I wanted to enjoy other classes more. So that was the plan for that. And then I thought, at this point, I'm like, in school, I'm walking dogs, and I'm not telling anyone really about this. And that started to feel weird at that point, because, I'm still talking to friends and running into people. And it started to feel like now I'm hiding something, as opposed to just kind of leaving it out for the time being. I'm doing it long enough now to where I feel like I need to start telling like that sort of the next tier out of friends and colleagues and that sort of thing. And so I told a few more people, and it's funny when I was like, I got something I got to tell you guys. The first thought most people had was like, either I was sick, or my girlfriend was pregnant, or it was like a random third thing, that it was like something bad or whatever. Which I don't know what that says, if it's like, people's just outlook on things, like the ones that are like, your girlfriend's pregnant, were thinking positively, I guess, because they were like, that in their head, that's like a good future. But the other ones who were like, you're sick and dying, or the other one was like, I honestly don't even remember what they were, but it was just something like where I was like, what? No, I was like, no, I told him the story, like of what I said in episodes, 1 and 2 of this, like I needed something more. My brain is rotting, blah, blah, blah. And a couple people were like, are you quitting stand up? I was like, absolutely not. That's part of the reason I didn't want to talk about this, because I just didn't want to have to entertain that, because I still didn't know how I felt about this decision. So I didn't want to seem like I was confused when I was answering the question. So everyone was like a lot more supportive, and sort of like or they were just kind of like, yeah, sounds great, cool, man. And then they were just like, the next topic, after like 5 or 10 minutes, and your good friends would be like, dude, that's amazing, and they're like, congrats, and they talk about like, there was a lot of this too, a lot of people that were like, I always wanted to go back to school, or I wanted to get my a master's in something, or I wanted to like go at all. Some people didn't go to college, and so I had some conversations like that from people who I never would have thought would say that, and they were thinking similar things like I got to find the time, or, or once such and such career thing happens, then I can do that. Sort of similar to, how I thought about it when it would come up, but friends were supportive. And I got another layer removed from people who I sort of thought were my friends, or maybe we were friends for a while, and like COVID lockdown sort of distanced us, kind of not distance us, but sort of like, well, if we're not even checking in with each other or talking to each other that much, like I guess we weren't really that good of friend. Why pretend at this point? And some of those people were like, it didn't even cross my mind to sort of tell them. So that's another thing, like little changes in life like that reveal. It's like, who are you going to talk to when something either really good or really random or really bad, or just sort of, that just sort of rattles, the norm. Who are you going to talk to about it? And they were like, yeah, a good handful of people who I like thought were friends and weren't. And then there were like a couple of people that I was like, I'm not going to tell them yet, because I don't want it to affect how we like sort of like work together. And I did, and again, it was like just my own insecurity about it. And, but outside of that, everybody was like really, excited, and they were like, wanted to just sort of know more. And then everyone does what they always do with everything, is they go right back to thinking about themselves and their own lives. So it's like and I was doing a version of that. I was thinking way too much about how is it going to be looked at if I do this, career wise. And it's like, it always has not mattered. And you just you forget, because you see the world through your own eyes, and you're worried about yourself, and it just doesn't matter. I still didn't really talk about it. Not that I talked to a lot of people in school, really, but if people are bringing things up sometimes when they're answering a question, or if someone says something that I kind of know the answer to that's in the world of entertainment or something, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna bring it up. I'm not going to say, actually, I do know that because I've lived in LA a long time, and this is how, the audition process works, or something. If someone uses a reference that has to do with entertainment in an answer for something in philosophy, or, or sometimes people just bring up TikTok and Instagram and, cite something that they liked on there, and they want to know how to say that in Arabic, or they want to, whatever it is. I just didn't want to pull any sort of like new information into something in an area where I'm like, this is school, this is like learning, and this is all I want this to be. I don't want to have conversations that aren't about that, and I don't want to answer questions about like where I'm from, my age, what I did before this, what I do now, or what I do in my not here hours. But sometimes when you're doing Arabic presentations, you have to talk about your life. So I remember asking the professor, I'm like, is it okay if I make stuff up? Because I just didn't want to, I just didn't want to talk about it. And I'm less so like that now. There was like one of the advisors at the writing center. I kind of gave him sort of my whole background life story, and he thought it was cool. And I told one of my professors, because I was saying I was just really tired. I had a long weekend, and I was like, I work, and they're like, oh, well, what do you, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to tell professors, I guess. That's a whole different thing. I'm like closer to age to them, and and again, I know no one cares that much or for that long, but that's more about just like, I don't want to like pull focus from school stuff while at school. So I was going to leave that at that. And then I started thinking about, like, when you're talking about this sort of stuff with your friends, like they'll start asking things like, well, what is, like, why now, like that kind of thing. And then, they'll be like, are you having a midlife crisis? And I'm not kidding. It just did not even enter my head as a reason. And I don't know if that's what midlife crises are, but people don't know they're having them when they're having them. And that's why they end up buying a Corvette or a Porsche or whatever the fuck. Or if they're bald, they start wearing a toupee. Like, I don't know why people do those things, but you'd have to think they're not aware, because it's so glaringly obvious to the rest of us. Like, why would they go that far with the thing, a toupee or a Porsche or, whatever. So I'm like, shit, maybe it is. I'm like, I'm right around that age, like 40, 41 when all that like started. I'm like, that's kind of almost halfway, right? What's life expectancy? 85, 80, no, 70, whatever. It's right around there. And then I thought, would this fall under midlife? Maybe. I mean, I definitely can't afford a Porsche, so I wasn't, thinking that. I guess maybe Columbia is like the Porsche of your mind. Porsche for your brain. So yeah, maybe it is. Is it? I've had a year to think about it, and I don't think that it is, from what I know about a midlife crisis. Like I was unhappy with things, but I didn't want to do something way out of left field and not be aware of the process. I was very aware of the process. I wasn't thinking like, no, this is what I would, who wouldn't buy a Porsche, or whatever. Like, I wasn't so like, no, this is absolutely what you do when you're 40, 41. Yeah, you totally like try and get into some really prestigious university that you have no business being in, and then you go from there. I was like aware of all of that, and it was more of like an expansion of like what I'm taking in from the world. I wasn't in any form of like denial about my age. It was not and still is not an age related thing. So I'm like, I think a lot of midlife crises have to do with that stuff. Some of them I think are career related, and there is some career related stuff with this, because maybe if I was feeling more fulfilled and like the getting those achievements and stuff, but then again, maybe not, because there is never enough in entertainment. Like, it's because it's so up and down that even when you do get something, you're like, you want the next thing, because that's work is not stable, I guess. So you're always like, well, if I got this next thing, then things would be more stable, but it really just never is that way. And the success is elusive. Things are always changing. So I probably, maybe I still would have, maybe. But then who knows? If I had gotten a Netflix special a few years ago, or maybe this special I put out on YouTube that failed miserably, maybe if that did really well and I was working a lot more, maybe I wouldn't have gone to my friend's graduation. Maybe I wouldn't have felt that way even if I did go. Maybe I would have been too busy, and this feeling would have come a couple of years later when that whole thing plateaued, and I'm like, yeah, I'm working way more and I'm making more money, but I still feel that emptiness. I think still would have been there, because that's more than just things are going well in your career. It's more of like, I'm looking around the world in which I live, and I just don't like the culture in the country. I don't like the culture in comedy. I don't like my social surroundings, minus obviously the people who I'm very close with in life. And I think that would have stayed there. And I think that's how I feel about it now. And I'm sort of like, just kind of leaving it open to like, maybe I'll have a conversation with someone about a midlife crisis, and I'll go, and they'll change my mind, or I'll look at it from a different angle and go, oh, maybe that is what I'm having. But I think it's more of like a general sort of identity crisis, maybe. I don't know. Or more of like, I think there's just I think the country at large is having an identity crisis. And I think after COVID and the amount of time, the lockdowns, the amount of time, I think a lot of people started going in these crazy directions and doing things and moving and changing career, doing all this stuff, just seemingly out of left field. And I always thought like, no, that stuff's been brewing in people, and the COVID lockdowns just let them pull the trigger on it and go, fuck it, I'm moving to Austin, or fuck it, I'm moving to wherever, pick a city, you know. And then they started doing things from there because they always thought like, I could do this. And then when everyone else started, they thought, why not? And a lot of those people have not moved back. They stayed in wherever, Minnesota, Nashville, Austin, LA to New York, or, upstate, or a million places. And I think that was just brewing in there. So from what I know now, from what I've been able to sort of think through, I think it, like, there's a culture crisis going on. People are freaking out. They don't know what the future holds. My whole generation has just felt like this thing that we grew up being taught to believe in is not happening. We're in a rigged system where the billionaires control everything. We're just like the promise of an American dream, and like, a future where things feel like they're actually progressing is just, it's not happening. And that pandemic just like shut everyone off from each other. And I think coming out of that, these thoughts and feelings that may have been deep in there somewhere just started making their way up. And when you are just living life, you don't have time to access those things that are deep inside there. I had a little time when I first moved to New York, because that was part of that plan, where I'm like, I need to remove myself from like the, being just that full immersion entertainment industry LA thing. And I was able to do some thinking and understand, like, I want to do more. I want to write more. I want to still be in a city where I can do stand up and not feel contained by like what you have to be in entertainment. So I started that process a little before that, but it was obviously way more that I wasn't getting to yet. And then, the lockdowns put it all in overdrive for a lot of people. And some people got really angry about things. Some people got introspective. Some people started healing in ways that they've always wanted to. I started learning more things, started thinking about what kind of future for this career, where do I want to be? How do I want to go at it? And I think it culminated in this being the thing I added on, which I get it, unusual. Like, who adds on going to college during their career? Usually people are in the process of changing one, or they left a career, then had a gap of whatever, they were on unemployment, and they were like, getting their master's in something. I'm not doing any of those things, but it's still new to me. And I'm working through understanding it. I've been working through it in conversations privately. Now I'm doing it here, and I want to talk about it like more. I want people to leave comments, to send message, tell me something similar you did in your life. Like, I want to know more about this stuff, because I find it more interesting as it goes on, because I'm thinking in ways I haven't thought before. Not even forget academically, like just in terms of how I see life and the things that are possible that you can add on to your experience, as opposed to being like, it's got to be this one way, because any other way is not as pure. Like, fuck that purity thing, man. Fuck that. And I hope you're all proud of me for not becoming an alt-right lunatic after the COVID lockdowns. I'm not trying to sell you supplements and lies about science. So there's that. I went the other way. I'm going to where all the, science and actual truth is being talked about. So, that's that. Yeah. Some kind of identity issue crisis, or just some sort of reckoning, some inner reckoning, had to happen. And it happened this way. And, spring semester ended, got the same grades again, all A's and a B plus, Arabic, duh. then summer school, and then that'll be the last 2 episodes. I'll talk about sort of what summer was like, and then the 10th episode will be start looking down the barrel of fall and having the busiest semester in terms of school and work, and just not sleeping and falling behind in classes, and still making it work, still getting it done. And that just ended. But yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that for the next one. Thanks. See you then.